One of the most noteworthy things that is happening in Washington, D.C. this week is a Supreme Court case that we've talked about for a long time on this program, an issue that I think Americans have become well acquainted with, and it's coming to the Supreme Court in the form of a BPJ v. West Virginia. And the Attorney General for the great state of West Virginia has some thoughts on all of this. J.B. McCuskey, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I've been, as they say on Sports Talk Radio, long-time listener, first-time caller.
That's right. Good. Well, you're going to fit in just great around here. That's the way we operate. But listen, this issue is basically the sports issue, men and women's sports. It's always been a no-brainer. This has been completely perverted by the left for so long to a point where it became a political issue. I think, as evidenced by the last election, vast majority of Americans don't see it that way. This thing it came to a head within your state, and I know that as this case has worked its way up, you've sort of been leading this charge from the very beginning. Tell me a little bit about the specific case, the issue. You're in D.C. doing a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
Let's start there.
So to begin with, tomorrow we're arguing in front of the United States Supreme Court, which is a big deal. And so the first thing I really need to mention is that the team of lawyers that I have assembled are truly unbelievable. And watching them juggle everything else that our office does, fighting for the energy industry or fighting for the Second Amendment or all the things that the West Virginia Attorney General's office does, along with getting ready for a Supreme Court argument.
Right.
I mean, it has been remarkable to watch Michael and Caleb and Holly do their thing. And so the people of West Virginia should be enormously grateful and proud of the team of lawyers they have representing them. But as it goes with the case, what you have is West Virginia in 2021 passed the Save Women's Sports Act. It's a simple law. It says biological males are not allowed to play sports against biological females. Within hours, the ACLU had a plaintiff and a case. And so it is interesting, one of the things we talk about a lot that's really wild is when you go on sort of a left-leaning media source, and I'll talk to anybody. I mean, I go on CNN and ABC and NBC. Anybody who wants to talk to me, I'll talk to them, right?
A glutton for punishment.
Well, the truth has a way of sneaking its way through. But they're always, why is this a big deal? Why are you making this a big deal? It's important to note that we got sued, right? We are here because West Virginia got sued by the ACLU, not the other way around.
Right.
And so what the law does is it says that your biological sex matters. And, we are very, very confident that we're going to win. I tell everyone I think it's going to be a 9-0 case. We have the Constitution, we have the law, and we have common sense, right? When you combine those three things, even liberal justices, I believe, will agree with us. But if we were to lose, a loss would render every single women's sports team in the entire country illegal. Think about that, right? If states are not allowed to regulate athletics this way, it means that you're not allowed to have a team with just girls.
Yeah.
Do you ever pinch yourself and think how crazy and absurd it is that it went this far? That
you have to go to the Supreme Court?
You have to go to the Supreme Court to be like, women should play in women's sports?
If I hadn't been involved in politics for the last 20 years, probably yes. But I have spent enough time around congresspeople and senators and state legislators, et cetera, to never really need to pinch myself at any level of idiocy that comes out of a politician's mouth. But,
Fair.
This is an 80-20 issue, a 90-10 issue. Public opinion is on our side, and it really is remarkable to watch an entire political party hang their hat on something that, number one, doesn't make any sense, number two, is bad for women, and number three, is irrational.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite at this level of irrationality.
Well, to your point about it being a 90-10 issue and the possibility that you get a 9-0 ruling in the Supreme Court, the Washington Post editorial page, famously left-leaning, wrote in support of your position.
Yeah. I mean, just in striking terms, right? I mean, their argument was essentially that every single time that a boy takes a podium or a medal, you're displacing a woman, right? And people forget that 50 years ago, before Title IX, there weren't really women's athletic scholarships at all. And one of the most salient and I think the powerful parts of our brief at the court is where we talk about the amount of women who've ascended to CEO levels at American corporations and into the highest level of politics. The percentage of them that played competitive college or high school athletics is well over 50%. And so what we know is that playing sports where winning matters and where losing creates the ability for you to learn how to lose, right? It's very hard to find another
team
corollary
sports
to that, right?
Well, and then you see the other thing that really bothers me about this is you hear some of these voices on the left and sort of minimizing the whole thing and being like, well, we're talking about high school athletics. Like, we're not, what's the big deal here? Because, of course, these people probably never played sports growing up.
Yeah, no, what gives them away?
They don't understand the sacrifice that actually goes into it.
Totally.
You listen to the stories of these female athletes and what's been taken from them, and I assume that's very powerful testimony.
I was just with 5 of the bravest women I've ever met who played. One was a silver medalist in the Olympics in gymnastics. One was a competitive college swimmer. One was a competitive college soccer player, and the other one was a competitive college volleyball player. Mm-hmm. And then 3 girls who are in college now. One plays soccer and 2 play track and field. Listening to these women who aren't trained communicators like we are, right? Like, my job is to get on podcasts like this and talk to you guys about what we're doing. But to hear their story, and they don't need notes, right? They can come up and they can, and I mean, frankly, a lot of these lessons were probably learned in athletics by them, right? The ability to be a leader, the ability to take criticism, the ability to do all the things because 5 years ago, if you're Riley Gaines 5 years ago, right, standing up and saying the things that she was saying, can you imagine the abuse that she took?
Yeah.
And that is what leadership is. And for them to finally have the opportunity to have some validation that their opinions matter and that their hard work matters and that women's sports matter, I was ready to fight for this law this morning, but after hearing those women speak today, I'm ready to run through a brick wall.
Yeah, well, you fought for it for sure, and you guys are doing it the right way. You've gotten to a place where winning is, again, at the doorstep, and the arguments are sound. And I agree. I mean, most legal analysts that you hear from say, yeah, this is a pretty good case. And I can't even imagine how you could come down on the other side of it. But I think that the blend that you bring to this is interesting to me, too, because you're a father, right?
Yep.
And you see this in practicality play out through your kids' sports.
Yeah, that's right. My daughters are competitive athletes, and I was an NCAA athlete, too. I wasn't a very good one. But, I have experienced what sports is like at very, very high levels. And when you lose and you know that the playing field was fair, you look at the other person and you're like, God, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
I'm not working hard enough, right? Why am I not on the driving range? Why am I not out hitting putts? Why am I out drinking beers, hanging out with my friends while these guys are getting better at golf? Could you imagine if you knew even before it started that you couldn't win?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what this does. That is what the stories that these women told is it doesn't make any sense for me to work hard if I know that I've lost the race before the gun has even gone off.
I find it so fascinating, too, because the left tries to brand this entire argument as though it's like an intolerance argument, when that is precisely what they are doing.
Right.
I mean, you fight for generations for things like Title IX or equal opportunity for women in sports and beyond sports. And then you turn around and you're like, no, dudes can play and all of that stuff. It's totally fine if a young girl is displaced by a man.
Yep. And if you're wrong on the facts and on the law, you attack the messenger.
Yeah.
And that's how you know.
I bet you're getting a fair amount of that.
I like to read the comments. I grew up.
Agony guy.
I have a friend group from high school that we treat each other as high school boys treat each other, and so the meanest thing anyone says to me any day comes from my best friends, not from anybody on the internet.
This guy,
so
I'm liking McCuskey.
they need to try harder to really get under my skin because Bart Olds can definitely do that. But the long and the short of it is that we're here, right? Yeah. I mean, and it really is. I knew it was a big deal. And when you're, a young law student, I mean, you want to talk about pinching yourself. The day I got elected Attorney General, right? I mean, when you're a 23-year-old walking across the stage, graduating from law school, you're not sitting there going, "Oh, I'm going to be the Attorney General," right? And then you wake up one day and you're like, "Holy crap, I'm in charge of this whole place." And that was certainly eye-opening, but it really is gratifying to know that I have gotten myself to a position where I can make a real difference for women all over the country.
Real national impact.
Including my daughters.
Yeah, like you said, you get involved in this to fight for West Virginians, whole range of issues that you've got to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And then lo and behold, an issue comes along where, this has major national import.
So I'll tell you a funny story, and Michael's going to hate that I told you this. So we got cert in this case like 2 months after I became the Attorney General. My solicitor was already there, and so we were just sort of starting to feel each other out. And he comes in the office and he goes, "Boss," he's sort of soft-spoken, and he says, "Hey, we got cert in BPJ. We got really good news." And I said, "Oh, that is good news." And he goes, "Do you think you're going to want to argue this case?" And I said, "Of course I am, Michael." I said, "I'm a politician. That's how I'm going to get on TV." And I could see he was like, "Oh, no." And so he looks at me and he goes, "Oh," and he takes this deep breath and he goes, "We're going to have to set aside 4 or 5 months to get you ready to do this. And I was like, 4 or 5 months? I was like, I was born to do this. I was like, you can throw me the brief, the night before the argument, I'll be just fine. And you could just see his eyes. And I waited like 2 hours. And I went back in his office and I was like, Michael, there's no way on earth I'm arguing this. I said, this case is 100% yours, man. This is your job. And he goes, oh my God, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm totally serious, man. I was just messing with you. And he goes, I have like 50 or 75 phone calls I got to make. So I think he called like everybody in his solicitor nerd group and was like, my new boss is a complete idiot. We're going to screw this case up. I don't get to argue it. And so he had to call everyone and tell them that I was going to let him argue it. So
You're just
what a
like
great move.
replaying the old Atticus Finch tapes. You're like,
Yeah,
I think I'll
got
work
this.
that
We can
through.
figure it out. Yeah.
No problem.
It's this is no brainer, man. I got it. Don't worry about it.
Headline of the New York Times.
West Virginia loses BPJ because Attorney General doesn't let his solicitor do the case. Yeah.
So, listen, just a little background on you. How did you get involved in politics? Were you a political guy growing up?
Yeah. So my mom was Senator Capito's chief of staff and her first campaign manager. My dad was the state party chairman in West Virginia. And when I was growing up, my dad ran for office and lost a lot.
Okay.
West Virginia was like 70% Democrat.
I remember
when I was
it well.
growing up. And then, my parents taught me and I grew up wildly blessed, right? I mean, I had two parents who cared about me and cared about my upbringing and my values in my life. But the biggest thing they always taught me was like, look, man, we're in a place where people deserve so much more. Like West Virginia has this incredible potential. And we're being dragged down by people who are unwilling to stand up and fight for what it means to be a West Virginian. And so I lived my whole life with this sort of idea that I have to be part of the change that's going to make West Virginia a better place. And so politics was sort of a natural fit for me. I hilariously met my wife, who's sitting out there probably leering at me, probably unhappy with some of my jokes, but that's okay.
That comes with the
But
business.
she's a Texan, and she moved to West Virginia to work on Bush 04.
Okay.
And so I came home from college to work on the Bush 04 campaign. And so in 2000, the reason why Bush was so big in West Virginia is Shelley Capito was running for the first time for Congress.
Yeah, I remember this,
And my
yeah.
mom was running her campaign, and the Bush campaign wasn't going to do anything in West Virginia. They just wrote it off because it was 70-30.
Yeah.
And my mom convinced Cotty Johnson, this was in 1999 when I was a senior in high school, that West Virginia was winnable. And she said, if you come in here and tell these folks that you're pro-coal and pro-gun, we think we can get you across the line.
I'll be damned.
And because my mom was the greatest political strategist I've ever met. She was literally incredible, also the best person I've ever known. And so they came in, and we won West Virginia, and Bush won by 3 electoral votes in 2000.
Yeah.
We gave him 5.
Yeah, very important.
And he was
state.
and that was the first time a first-term Republican had won since Reconstruction.
Yeah.
It hadn't happened. Yeah. And so Bush just loved West Virginia. So he was always there, and so I got to meet my wife on the campaign, something that a lot of people on the left and some people on the right now don't think is all that great of a story. But the rest is history. And she's been my greatest political supporter and my political advisor my entire life. And now we got a young family, and we're doing the thing here in West Virginia.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's an awesome story. I mean, so we do 3 questions with everybody who shows up
Okay.
for the first time. And
I'm ready.
I'm curious. I don't know if we've had real panoply, different answers from West Virginians over the years.
What
But
other West Virginians have you had?
We've had basically all of them.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Capito, Riley Moore.
I think
Yep.
you're the.
Riley lived at my house when we were in the state legislature.
No
together.
way.
Is that right?
Riley was actually sitting there when my then 2-year-old daughter cut the tip of her pinky off, and his wife was pregnant, and so she was back at home, and so he was sitting there like, oh my God, what the hell am I getting? My wife was pregnant, and our little daughter and then my wife passed out, and I had to carry them all to the car to take. It was a whole thing.
That's a fun party trick.
Riley's the best.
All right, so the first question
Yeah.
is, if you can plan your last meal on Earth, what would it be?
Oh, simple. It's Menard's spaghetti, Menard's garlic bread, Menard's Italian salad, and a Bonnie Bell's cake. Shout out to Clarksburg, West Virginia, and the Menard's restaurant, which is truly elite.
And it's different than the lumber chain where I grew up. Menards was sold boards and stuff like that.
Save big money at Menards.
That's it.
That was the
That's
jingle.
Menards.
Yeah.
No, ours
Okay.
is Menards. Ours is Italian. Theirs is probably Dutch.
yeah.
if I had
Not
to
the
guess.
same.
Well, the Italians, they get you again. Don't they? That's so good. I love it. All right, so second question. with the benefit of retrospect, now that you are a big deal,
Yeah.
your team's arguing before the Supreme Court, everybody kind of takes a look back and sees different life paths, skills that you've acquired along the way, and you're like, wow, what if I did that instead of where it is that I'm doing? If you could just paint a picture of some other lot in life than you've currently ended up with, what would it be?
I would be a club pro at an elite country club.
Yes, dude.
I played golf in college. Golf is my thing. And honestly, the skills that politicians have are very similar to being the pro at a country club, right? You have to manage a whole bunch of people with different opinions.
Yep.
And you have to manage a bunch of frequently drunk people and keep them from fighting each other. And just being around the game, golf to me is the ultimate sport that exposes your personality.
Yeah, totally.
And so golf for me, it's what I do. It's my only hobby, and I would absolutely love to be a club pro at some course in Arizona.
McCuskey's going to fit in around here.
Oh, yeah.
This is this is not going to be your
Athletic
last.
director at WVU would be pretty awesome.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, we have a great athletic director, Ren. I'm not coming for your job, buddy.
But
I'm a little jealous. You're on private planes a lot more than I am. And you get really good seats at all the games I want to go to. But yeah, that would be a great job too.
Third and final question. So our view is that most successful people are motivated by one of two things. You may have heard this question before. It's either the thrill of victory or the agony of defeat. And it's not that anybody doesn't like winning or doesn't not like losing. It's the whole polls and what motivates you, right?
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
This is another easy one.
It's
For
the
me.
Michael Jordan thing.
Yeah.
And I think we've already identified where
I
you're
hate
at.
losing 1,000 times more than I like winning.
Yeah.
I knew it.
You're an open book on that. I feel
I also always win. It's great.
makes
I don't
it
even know how much I hate losing. I only ever got to watch my dad do that.
so good. Well, good luck tomorrow. I know this is a huge thing for the country. You've done an incredible amount of work with you and your team to make sure that this is, in the eyes of the law, as much of a no-brainer as it is in the eyes of most Americans, just on a principle level.
Yep.
And those are two different things.
Yes, I agree with that. And we have, in our country today, have gotten so far afield from the general common sense of the world. And I think one of the things that's really interesting here, and don't tell Riley I said this, but the reason I'm sitting here is because Congress has refused to act for decades.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even imagine a world where you can't get a majority of our senators and Congress people to pass a common sense law to make this a national thing, right? But in that absence, in the last 2 decades, the Republican attorney generals have really become the leading voice in America for common sense. And when you look at all the large-scale changes, whether they're in the energy industry or on the Second Amendment or on sports or on the NCAA or you name it, right? It's an attorney general who brings a case to the Supreme Court and changes it, and it's something that should have been done by Congress a long time ago. And I'm enormously proud to be a part of the Republican attorney general's group. My colleagues are absolutely
Yeah, they showed up in
fantastic.
mass for this one.
Yeah, and they're all just incredible people. And it's been such an honor over the last year to get to be a part of that group and to get to do things like this for the amazing people in West Virginia who I love more than anything in the world.
So for those of our listeners who want to follow along
Yeah.
with your commentary on how today's arguments went, everything going, where do they find you?
Yeah, McCuskey for WV at Twitter is the best place, and it's McCuskey.
Got it.
Which is frequently misspelled on all of my my junk mail I get, so I realize how hard it must be to spell if the AI can't figure it out. But yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter. If you don't like sports, you'll probably be relatively bored by a majority of my tweets, but most of our official stuff comes through there too.
Yeah, we will not be bored in the least. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for everything you do. You guys bring an enormous amount of common sense to almost everything you talk about. And I love listening to your show, and I can't wait to listen, I guess, to myself, even though I hate the sound of my own voice. But keep doing what you're doing. You guys are a real outlier in the space and folks that I really respect. So thank
Very,
you for
very
having me.
kind of you to say. J.B. McCuskey.
I mean, this guy has an awful lot on the ball, and I couldn't help but think throughout the entire conversation that he told us the ACLU picked a fight with them. And I cannot think of a worse state that ACLU could have picked a fight with than West Virginia. I mean, those guys come to play, and he seems like he's about to win.
I got to say something. Like, West Virginia has been doing it lately.
pound for pound,
with
man.
the people that they're electing, the work they're doing,
Pound
There's
for pound,
a lot of good stuff happening in West Virginia.
There really
They are sending their best.
I love the fact that he was busting his attorney's balls.
The Solicitor General.
Yeah, the Solicitor General comes in because they're all kind of like career guys that they go from one attorney general to the other. And then he shows up and he's like, do you want to argue this? Oh, of course. I'm going to be on TV. It'll be a big deal. And the guy's like, ah, shit. And he waits for him to be like, dude, I'm not going to argue. We're going to get Supreme Court guy to do that. That's so good. He sense of humor while he does it. God, you got to appreciate it. Again, next generation of leadership. There's no despair here. We're building the right things. Listen, like and subscribe. And when you do, we read your question of the day responses. This question of the day is, why are Democrats suddenly anti-Hamas? Is that a blip? What is it referring to? Interested in your perspective. Maybe you see some of this in your own community. So get back to us on that. We'll read them back to you on Thursday when you like and subscribe. With that, fellas, I think we did it.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much, Attorney General McCuskey, and thank